Yesterday, the Supreme Court ruled. They ruled that the GOP-drawn congressional map for the next election can be used. But I believe there's some other cases that are following that might change that. But right now, the GOP can use them. Governor Abbott is here to comment on this from the great state of Texas. Hello, Governor Abbott. How are you?
Hey, Glenn. I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm good. Good news yesterday for Republicans in the state of Texas. Tell me how you view this.
Well, listen, it was huge news for Republicans in Texas, and I'll tell you also Republicans across the United States of America. But maybe more importantly, it's huge news for the Constitution and for Supreme Court precedent. What the Supreme Court made clear yesterday, and that is this trial court that ruled against Texas completely abandoned and ignored Supreme Court precedent. The Supreme Court made clear that the trial court was wrong on the facts, wrong on the law, and this was maybe the worst beatdown of a lower court decision that I've ever seen imposed by the United States Supreme Court. So this is total vindication for the state of Texas, for the legislature, for what all of us did in drawing these maps. These maps were drawn for two reasons. One, to make sure that they fully complied with the United States Constitution and with Supreme Court precedents. But second, and very importantly here, what's allowed is to ensure that we are able to draw maps that truly represent the values of the people of our state. Our state, like some other states, have had districts, congressional districts, hijacked by far progressive leftists that don't represent our state values. We're able to redraw those lines in ways for political reasons to ensure we're going to have representation that truly represents the values of our state. And as a result, we should be picking up 5 more Republican seats in the state of Texas, in the United States Congress.
Governor, is this the end of these challenges? Do we think that this is locked in now, or is there still more to come?
Well, there will be more to come in the sense that the United States Supreme Court will have briefing on this issue and then a full final decision. But if you look into what the opinion said, they allowed us to move forward with our elections on the maps that we passed this summer, based upon their conclusion that the state of Texas is likely to win upon further briefing, upon further decision-making by the Supreme Court. This was a preliminary stage decision, so we couldn't say it definitively, but they could articulate, based upon everything that they had seen from the lower court decision and based upon U.S. Supreme Court precedent, that Texas was going to win. And, one thing that's very important here, and that is it was just last year that the United States Supreme Court issued a decision on redistricting that was the guidepost for how this case was supposed to be decided by the lower court. And the lower court completely abandoned that United States Supreme Court precedent, and the Supreme Court beat down the lower court for violating that precedent for reasons which no one can understand. The lower court just went off on its own, and it seemed like it wanted to dictate an outcome and wrote a decision to achieve a dictated outcome without applying the law, without applying the facts.
How are we going to get these lower courts under control?
Listen, you raised a very important issue because we got problems with lower courts in redistricting. We got problems with lower courts in so many of these other areas. You see, especially leftist courts across the country, they're doing things like saying that the president cannot deploy the National Guard. Listen, the president is fully authorized by the United States Constitution and by federal laws to be able to deploy the National Guard for the purpose of protecting federal employees like ICE. Whenever and however the president decides to do it. And some of these rulings in that regard, in other ways, we have lower federal district courts that are abandoning the Constitution, abandoning their obligation to follow the laws. And it's a real problem.
So a couple of days ago, you sent a letter to Secretary Bessent about suspending CAIR's tax-exempt status. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So the letter that I sent to Secretary Bessent, it was a request to deny CAIR, and for your listeners, CAIR stands for Council on American Islamic Relations. And the letter requesting that they be denied their 501c3 status is based upon an earlier document that I issued, which is a proclamation that CAIR is a foreign terrorist organization. And Glenn, let me just connect a couple of dots here that will show why we are making this allegation. For one, for decades, CAIR has been intertwined with terrorism. And there are three organizations that operate in a shadow way in collaboration with each other. So if you would, follow along as I connect a couple of dots. Hamas is a designated foreign terror organization by the United States of America. Hamas is a branch of the Muslim Brotherhood in Gaza. Trump, as you probably know, is considering naming the Muslim Brotherhood a foreign terrorist organization. And then federal documents connect CAIR with the Muslim Brotherhood. And as we have articulated, CAIR has historic connections to terrorism. A founder of the Texas branch of CAIR was convicted by a jury in Dallas for providing financing for terrorism. And then more recently, just last month, an illegal immigrant from Jordan in the Dallas-Fort Worth area was ordered to be deported. And the deportation order required a finding that he actually provided material support for terrorism. And then after that, last month, CAIR vocally fought to keep this material supporter of terrorism in the state of Texas, and they even called him a pillar of the community. Here's the bottom line. If CAIR doesn't want to be labeled as a terrorist organization, if it wants to shed its early ties to terrorism, it needs to stop supporting those who are identified by the federal government as supporters of terrorism. But because they haven't completely abandoned their connection to terrorism, because they support terrorists to this day. That's exactly why they deserve, for one, to be labeled a foreign terrorist organization, and for another, why they should not be receiving the benefits of a 501c3 organization.
Tell me about EPIC, otherwise now been renamed The Meadow. Does that mean the investigation has stopped?
Absolutely not. The investigation is going on. Let me explain. For one, EPIC, as you know, is this compound that was put together by an Islamic organization in the Collin County area. It was a massive compound, and it was structured in a way that it would be a Muslim-only community, which directly violates Texas law. And so we dug into the documents they were using to create this program, and the documents themselves were in violation of Texas law. I'll just give you one quick example of many that would exist, and that is if you had gone out and bought land that was in this compound area and you wanted to sell that property later, you couldn't just sell it to anybody you wanted to. You had to go through the local imam and get the imam's approval about whether or not you could sell the property and who you could sell it to. And if the imam disapproved, you would have to sell it to the imam. That was one way in which they were going to be able to control and make sure that it was going to be a Muslim-only community. For that and other reasons, and for our investigations, they knew they were never going to be able to break ground on the EPIC City compound there in Collin County area. So they completely abandoned EPIC City, and now they have come up with a new name called the Meadow. Well, listen, a name change doesn't purge the legal flaws that they've already incurred in the process. And that's why we still have ongoing investigations. We have something like 5 state agencies that are conducting investigations as we speak right now. There's the Attorney General's Office, the Texas Rangers, the State Securities Board, Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, and the Housing Authority here in the state of Texas, all looking into the practices that have already been established by this Islamic organization, which we believe, again, is trying to set up a program under a more, let's say, less offensive name, the Meadow. Just because they changed the name to the Meadow doesn't mean they're going to be able to set up an Islamic-only community there in the Collin County area.
the cleric behind this thing is a pretty radical guy. Now, he says he's not radical anymore, but I mean, he was openly calling for the death of homosexuals, the death of Jews. There's recordings of him, saying, let's see here, that one recording says preaching about vices and mandate executions under Sharia law in Islam. This is part of our religion, to stone an adulterer, to kill, by the way, the homosexual. This is our religion. I mean, he says, well, no, I was just talking about that, and that was, radical, but I'm not radical like that anymore. I mean, but he says horrible, horrible things. Is he under investigation? Do you know about him?
So, yeah, anybody and everybody involved in this entire process is going to be under investigation. First, let's go back to what you were talking about, because it is part of the method of operation that many Muslim organizations in Texas and the United States operate under, and this is part of their international program where they literally talk out of both sides of their mouth. They have these intents, like what you were talking about, to impose Sharia law, Sharia standards, while at the same time, CAIR comes out saying, well, we're just a civil rights organization trying to back all Americans, which is hogwash. And so all of us need to be vigilant about following exactly what they're doing, ignoring the candy coating that they're putting on what they're saying, but looking at what their true intentions are. And that is to take over land in the state of Texas or other states. Listen, they're doing this in states across the entire country. Take over land and then slowly impose their Sharia policies, whether it be enforcement through courts or compound communities, whatever the case may be. And that's why we are investigating this from top to bottom.
Great. Governor, thank you so much. Appreciate your time. And we look forward to talking to you again. God bless. Stay safe.
You too. Take care. Bye.
You bet.